South Pasadena and surrounding areas experienced a string of fires destroying both homes and businesses in the mid-1980s. It was October 10, 1984. The Padres were playing the Tigers in Game 2 of the World Series. A blazing inferno became of Ole's home center store. 4 people died, including a 2-year-old boy, Matthew Troidel. Ada Deal, his grandmother, and 2 store employees, Carolyn Krause and Jimmy Satina, also perished. Fire investigator John Orr from nearby Glendale Fire Department expressed his belief that based on the point of origin, highly flammable polyurethane foam and patio cushions, the fire to be an arson. But the consensus was it was probably some sort of freak accident. Either way, there was no evidence found. A few months later, another Ole's home center caught fire. It was obvious this time that the fire was intentionally set. It began in the foam padding section of the store. More fires started popping up in nearby Bakersfield, one at a Craft Mart store. Arson investigator and Captain Marvin Casey found a critical clue in a bin of dried flowers. It was a slow-burning incendiary device, a cigarette and matches wrapped in a piece of yellow-lined notebook paper bound by a rubber band. The same day, another fire occurred at Hancock Fabric Store. This one started in a bin with pillows and foam rubber. Then there were more fires in Fresno and Tulare. At one of those fires, that same slow-burning incendiary device found at the Craft Mart store was discovered. It was pretty clear there was a serial arsonist on the loose. Marvin Casey studied the fire's locations and times. He realized that they all occurred alongside the same highway and during and after the period of when 300 arson investigators convened each year in Fresno. Was it possible that one of their own was behind the fires? Marvin Casey narrowed down the list of fire investigators to those who 1. Attended the conference, 2. Traveled alone, and 3. Passed through Bakersfield on Highway 99. He ended up with 55 individuals. But when he told his supervisors about his theory, he became a pariah. No one believed him. People shunned him and didn't want to entertain the possibility that the arsonist was among them. The ATF, or Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, examined the incendiary device found by Marvin Casey at one of the fires. They checked it for fingerprints using anhydrine, a chemical that reacts with amino acids. A partial print was found. Filters were used to enhance the print and then entered into AFIS, or the Automated Fingerprint Identification System of known criminal offenders. But there was no match. Marvin Casey's request that the 55 individuals on his suspect list be fingerprinted was denied. In March 1989, the fire started again, but now they were along Highway 101. Marvin Casey's investigation reignited. No pun intended. He noticed that much like with the previous rash of fires, they were around the time and nearby a fire convention taking place. He was hot on the trail. Okay, that pun was intended. He compared the list of attendees of both conventions and found that there were 10 individuals who were present at both. Marvin Casey urged the ATF to compare the prints of the 10 people on his list to the print found on the device, but there was no match. 2 years later, dozens more fires sprung up in Los Angeles retail businesses in the middle of the day. At the behest of Special Agent Michael Matassa of the ATF, the LA Sheriff's Office compared the print to those in its database of people who applied for a job, and they got a match. And whose print was it? None other than Glendale arson investigator John Orr. John Orr wanted to be a cop. He applied in 1982 but failed the psychological test. He applied to be an LA fireman but didn't pass the physical. He was devastated. And then got a job at the Glendale Fire Department. Eventually he became an arson investigator and then captain. He was one of the people on the list of 10, but apparently there was a mistake and he slipped through the cracks and almost got away with it. Investigators could only tie Orr to the one fire where the incendiary device was found with his fingerprint. Even though they knew he was behind the other fires, they needed more evidence. So the ATF placed him under strict surveillance. They bugged his car, and one day his car was tracked at Warner Brothers studio at the time a fire broke out. He drove home and got the call regarding the fire. However, he was given the wrong location. Investigators saw him go to the correct location. Clearly, he had knowledge of the fire. Investigators got a warrant and they found incriminating evidence such as the yellow lined paper in his car, just like the one used to make the incendiary devices. And a homemade video he shot of structures such as homes before and after the fires was also found in his possession. He filmed the fire department arriving and making efforts to extinguish the blazes. It was almost like a trophy he could use to relive the crimes. Interestingly, authorities found a manuscript about a protagonist named Aaron Stiles, who was a firefighter turned arsonist. It was called Points of Origin, Playing with Fire. It mirrored this string of destructive fires, including the one that took the lives of those at the first Ole Home Center. He even used the same names of the deceased. But what's really fascinating is Aaron Stiles is an anagram for I Set LA Arson. A book was written about John Orr and his exploits called Fire Lover by Joseph Wambaugh. His title was inspired by Orr's own description of his relationship with fire. He says, "The fire becomes a mistress, a lover." Orr was found guilty on all 4 counts of first-degree murder for the victims of the Ole's fire, not to mention being found guilty of multiple arsons. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was spared the death penalty thanks to his daughter's testimony. It is said that Orr's daughter, Lori, later came to believe that he was in fact guilty, and she cut off all contact with him. Orr has always denied his guilt, but if there's any doubt in anyone's mind, consider this. In the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena area, there was an average of 67 brush fires per year in the 10 years before Orr was incarcerated. After he was put away, the average in the same area dropped to 1. It is estimated that in 30 years, Orr set an unbelievable 2,000 fires, making him one of the most prolific and infamous arsonists of all time.